Good afternoon and welcome. Very happy to be back here in John Oxington. My name is Diaz, co-founder of Dharma Alliance. And I just want to say that I'm very happy to see all of you, friends, family, honored guests. And I'm very happy to also welcome somebody very special in our continuing series of lectures and presentations in the land of smiles, Thailand, the Venerable Anil Sakya. He is a Buddhist scholar and a social anthropologist by training, with an MPhil from Cambridge and a PhD from Brunel University. And today's topic will be, I think, very relevant to today's challenges, and it's the sufficiency approach to development. And I can say that it's been an honor and a pleasure speaking and spending quality time with you over the last 24 hours. And I'm sure that the rest of the audience here and then YouTube will get a sense of who you are and what your ideas are all about. So with that being said, floor is yours.
Everyone. Your Excellencies and all ladies and gentlemen who are interested in this short notice lectures provided by our good friend here, Prasan, and the group of Dharma Alliance. This topic actually is something very near and dear to me personally. It's all about the idea of sufficiency. The thing is that I have been, I don't know why, how, but I have been involved with this, the what you call it, sustainable development, or the GNH called happiness, gross national happiness thing from the beginning, when gross national happiness was started in 2012 at the United Nations, what we call it these days called referred as a happiness summit. I guess that was the first time that United Nations came to the term and really relating something which is not the expertise at all, because at the United Nations they are always expert in terms of economics, peace, war, politics, and so on and so on. And they never count something very near to their kind of something as abstract as a happiness, as a part of the agenda of the United Nations, never before. But with a very kind of a dedicated working of the Prime Minister of Bhutan at the time, Prime Minister Pinlay, and then many other expertise. I think one of them is that Jeffrey Sachs and all these scholars there. They work hard until it become a pass through the resolution of the United Nations, and then able to organize what you call this the new economic paradigm, happiness and well-being. So suddenly in the 2012, the happiness and well-being, inserted as one of the agenda, one of the issues which all nations come to talk under the one table, apart from the politics, apart from the economics, apart from the GDP. And then the whole idea at the time, in fact, was the whole atmosphere about a 3 days conference at the time was trying to really set our tone against the GDP, to be honest, because we are finding that the GDP not only creating the whole, what you call this prosperous development country and so, but at the same time, it was creating a lot of suffering to the humankind, because every country was kind of in order to compete with each other, we need to fulfill the GDP. We need to compete with the GDP. The higher GDP is you are regarded as the most prosperous and developed country. So nobody wants to be the country who is behind the development. So that's kind of a mechanism which created, actually this is very new, but it has been used, I guess, until we forget that when it started. It was just started actually in the 1970s, it's 1960s. The whole idea of GDP after the Second World War. Because after the Second World War, the problem at the time all over the world is that the destruction of infrastructures, and then destruction of this economics. And then in order to kind of really, bounce back with these infrastructures, with that economic, with that peace and prosperity, whatever the war has shattered at the time. So they were trying to find how we fix those. And one of the Russian economists, I think Russian-American economists, I just slip on the tongue of my, slip out of my tongue, the name something, I can't remember at the moment. So he came up with that, do you remember? Yeah. And he came with this idea of the GDP. And then at the time, when he presented the idea of a GDP, he had a caution. The problem is he has a caution. This is a temporary measurement, you see. He used the word temporary measurement in order to solve the problem all over the world we were facing at the time. And GDP was introduced to the world. And then by the GDP, so every country trying to kind of fix their problem because infrastructure is fixed, because otherwise you will be left out. So you have to compete with each other. The economics kind of, the numbering metric economics was really become tools to see that you are really a developed country or not, and based on everything. So that was kind of it just played a trick between all nations, and then we are trying to compete with that GDP number. And whoever got a GDP, higher GDP, then they thought that they were the developed country. And then that trick played very well at the time. All the infrastructures which destroyed was refixed. The economics was a bit better, and the population who was at that time by the war, a lot of I don't know, thousands of I don't know how many thousands people died. So it was kind of suddenly we have a baby boom and so and so. Suddenly we fix everything at the time with the word GDP. But the whole idea is that, sometimes we think that is a solution. But over time, the solutions transform to be a problem. And this is the stage of the GDP at the moment. So there's a lot of way trying to tackle this problem. So how do we get on? We can't really cut down the GDP because now the whole world has been using the GDP. We have a World Trade Organization here, and the GDP has become a mantra. GDP has become our vein. But at the same time, it is giving us a big cancer because everyone is competing, and then our life is suffering badly. It was in the WHO here, again from Geneva, I guess. In the year 2000, they did a survey all over the world, year 2000, and kind of precasting that by 2020, what will be the worst disease the human world will face. So the research was done, the survey was done in 2000, year 2000. And that survey was very interesting. Came out that the second highest, worst disease the human will face by 2020 happened to be stress, anxiety, which is not a physical disease at all. It's become a mental disease. So since then, the whole world, all developed, what you call is developed country, like Europe, America, then it was a big warning for every country that how we are going to face. So there was a lot of investment on the medications, a lot of investment on the sort of a modern medicine in order to tackle with the problem of stress, problem of distress, problem of anxiety. But starting from 2000, even now up to 2024, whatever the medication we have invented in order to cure, in order to handle that particular human disease, which is spreading like a virus all over the world now, the result came out that all the research, all the scientists, when they did it, it works only 20%. It's 80% is relapse. During the medication, you might be okay. But once you stop medication, the stress again. The suicide rate is very bad. Then suddenly our kind of family matter, the divorce rates become high. the economic and the finding for the job, and then trying to, the stability in the job is become very difficult. So all those kind of factors make our life is, more harder than what we expect. So every world, every country, every nation is trying to find how to fix that, because we created the problem. Now, who is going to solve that? We have to deal with that. And in that sense, there are so many ways to think it. And in 2012, that's how the Bhutan, small country, came forward and in trying to kind of play the big trick. They said, okay, we are tricked by the GDP. Why we are not using some different measurement, the happiness index instead of economic index, which is very abstract, which is very absurd, absurd at the time. But every nation was talking about that. From the prince at the time, the Prince Charles was talking about that. Even in his book, I think they called Harmony. He was talking about this kind of thing. And every country went back and trying to dig their own ancient wisdom or whatever, their cultural wisdom, and say, and trying to find that there's any way to really tackle this problem of GDP. And this is what we have been really struggling even up to now. We still can't find it, but even G and H, even whatever in Canada, I heard that they are also trying to turn down the GDP. They are trying to come up with the kind of CWI, Canadian West Wealth Index. In every country, they have their own measurement, trying to topple down the GDP. But so far, we are not succeeding. And in that run, in that kind of operation, what happened is that in something about 30 years ago, Thailand had a big problem with the economic problem called the Tom Yam Goong crisis. We started from Thailand, and then these days, when we talk about economics, we are not alone. We are interdependent, as Buddhists said. So we are interdependent, where we are dependent on each other, so we are not isolated. So once the economic in Thailand was really gone bad and down, so it trickles, it multiplied from Thailand to all over the world. So that's why it was named Tom Yam Goong crisis, from the very spicy food to become a very very spicy social problem, economic problem, Tom Yam Goong crisis. And at the time, the problem was so severe in Taiwan, in Japan especially, and many other countries, the suicide rate was very high. All this kind of businessmen, they just went bankrupt, and they just don't know how to handle their life. And the suicide rate in Japan, Taiwan, and so many other countries, because it was skyscraper, was very high. And that time, His Majesty, the late Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej, which was King Rama IX, I thought that he has been observing that idea. He has been observing what is going on in the world. And actually, he had this idea of a sufficiency. Actually, he planted that idea something around nearly 50 years ago, actually, in one of the, what we call this Buddhist era, 2517, which is I think 50 years ago. He spoke in one of his assignment, one of his kind of public talk. He talked about this idea, something like a sufficiency, but it was not well articulated. But when the crisis was hit at the time, then suddenly His Majesty King brought that idea, which he germinated nearly 50 years ago, and then he really exercised on that idea. And then he came up with the word sufficiency economy. Okay. The world is trying to find a way how to deal with the GDP, how to deal with the problem of stress. And His Majesty King, the late King of Thailand, then came up with this idea of a sufficiency economy. And he himself said that he was trying to find some better word, but he couldn't find. The sufficiency, in many perspectives, they took it as a negative sometimes. Because what do you mean by sufficient? And then King also thinking that is that a self-sufficiency? But King says that it's not about self-sufficient. If it is self-sufficient, it will be egocentric again. You are to think of yourself, and then you are sufficient. What about the country? What about the other people? So the King didn't want to use the word self-reliant or self-sufficient, but he just used the word sufficiency, and then he said that he couldn't think of better word, but at the moment, I will use the word sufficiency economy as to to challenge the GDP. So the heart of idea of sufficiency economy, which later on, even the Thai people or even the Thai policy and Thai intellectual didn't get that idea. Even they thought that this is some idea of the King's berserk idea or King's very ideal idea. So they put it as a philosophy, which King never said that it is philosophy. Because of the intellectuals or the politician who heard this word didn't understand, but didn't want to refuse the King's word. So as a Thai loyal to the King, trying to honor the King's word, but they don't know how to, so they just put it in a very, in an altar and a very fine way, so make it philosophy. In a philosophy, I guess that as a nature of philosophy is that a good. It's a good because it's a good for debate. It's a good for talking. It's a good for expanding our way of thinking here and there. But in terms of really solving the problem, the philosophy would really work or not. So the King never used the word philosophy. But however, in Thailand, by the law, whatever, they use the word philosophy and it become a sufficiency economy philosophy. So that one, when the King is then facing the problem, the economic problem, then he used the word economy there. And then again, it become a mislead. Okay? Because when you say the economy and a sufficiency economy, suddenly it's become a paradox. Because whole idea of economy, so far we have understood, from the time of the Adam Smith, is that it is a management of a consumption, distribution, production, whatsoever, all those things. It is about the greed. Economy about expanding our greed. Economy is expanding our money, our GDP. That is the economy. But when you say the sufficient or sufficiency, oh no, I'm fine, I'm enough. So how to deal with the in terms of an economy, you have to increase the graph and higher and higher and higher. But when you have an adjective as a sufficiency, what does it mean? Sufficiency economy. So it's become paradox. But a King used it purposefully in that way, hoping that his subject would understand that. Unfortunately, I guess didn't get that much. That's his idea. So every year, King went on a lot of investment is explaining his idea. Many examples, giving example how, because in Thailand it's mostly the agricultural-based economy. So he was using the agriculture, and then the King was very expertise in agriculture as well, because in irrigation, he's a very, very expert in making irrigations and all those things. And throughout his reign, over from the 1952 to the date of his time, I think he has something around 5,172 projects, which was running all over Thailand, and all those projects is dedicated to his subject and the people, but it was initiated by the King himself, supported by the King's financially, and led all these technocrats, everything by the King's own leadership. And then when we look at all this over 5,172 projects during his time, and it covers every part of what we call a sustainable development word, actually. Sustainable development goal, SDG 17 goals. Many go to the economics, many go to the agriculture, the irrigation, the educations, the public health, and so it's everything which is related with as a human society. The King came with these ideas. And then nobody knows that when the king initiated each of his project, backbone of that project happened to be he was using what he called the sufficiency economy. What is about the sufficiency economy now? So the people in his subject Thailand is not getting the idea, because economy is a greed. And it is a nature of human to have a greed. Because these days all economic is based on a greed. All the banks, they are encouraging us to use the credit card. That is a greed. We don't have money, but banks say that go and use it. Swipe, go and use it, don't use it. And then we become, we don't have money in the bank, but we use in advance, even without our reserve bank. But that is how the economy is, kind of fooling us to make us use the money which not belong to us, which we don't have it. We are using our future money, our future wealth even. So in a way, that's same as all the resources here these days, in the name of the development, what we are using is, we are not using not only our share, but we are also overuse our future generations' right and share. So that is whole idea behind the SDG, actually. And the king then slowly using his idea of a sufficiency approach in order to run the project which he had started all over Thailand, 5,172 projects on all different subjects, on different matters, all different national problems. Then he was using this whole ideas, but people didn't get it. And then every year, whenever king has a chance to address the public, he has been addressing all the subject about the sufficiency economy. What is that? What is that? What is that? All the prime minister, ministers, politicians, people was listening and listening, but didn't get that much clarity. So what is all about the sufficiency economy? The idea of that sufficiency economy is very, very ideal in a sense, because there's a few keywords king used it. So it will give you a big picture of what the king really meant to be. So one is that he was saying that a sufficiency economy is a middle path, a middle way. Second, he was saying that a sufficiency economy is something to not measure by the GDP or something in that metric way. We are not going to try to compete with GDP. Of course, GDP is a part of that, but we won't be under GDP. We won't be forced or kind of led by GDP. While GDP is looking at economic and wealth and money as a main point, but sufficiency economy is trying to look at the well-being and happiness of the people in the state. So he has these 2-3 points, and the thing is that importantly, when he started the idea, which is actually very, 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 I guess that a contemporary to the world problem, and then he put it the main idea of environment preservation and protections all the time. While the world was not talking about that yet, but in his idea of a sufficiency approach, so he was balancing, whole idea of sufficiency, he's balancing the idea of economic, idea of a society, the equity in a society, and then the environment protections. So these 3 main area is one of the, the consequence he was trying to portray within this idea of a sufficiency approach. So by using the word sufficiency economy, then we have to come down to the idea that what does it really mean. Fortunately, I have a kind of a chance to kind of to help work for the His Majesty King in directly or indirectly in some different way, because I was secretary of the Supreme Patriarch of Thailand, and the Supreme Patriarch of Thailand, the late Supreme Patriarch of Thailand, happened to be the teacher for His Majesty the King. So the His Majesty the King, whatever happened, will come and see and seek the guidance from His Holiness the Supreme Patriarch. And in many occasions, being a secretary, I'll be sitting beside them. So my ear is always hearing what your conversation is all about. And sometimes not only that, then the king was asking all the different questions, and the Supreme Patriarch will say that, okay, I'm not sure about that, but I will search for that. So then when the Supreme Patriarch says that I have to search for that, means that it's become my job now. I have to go and do all the digging, do the research, and trying to present the paper through my teachers, and then my teacher will go through that and then send it to the king. So based on my kind of involvement there, then I slowly realized that what the king really meant. The first thing now, the word sufficiency. Now the word sufficiency, king have a hint. They said that the king said that it is a middle path. So he was talking about not too extreme, not to be the wealth based, or not to be what you call is that really have to go through the poverty and this is to another extreme of the wealth. It's not that, but we have to manage our economy in a way which is sustainable for everything and sustainable for human well-being as well. Might be in the economic point of view, it won't be maybe the GDP like higher GDP, but whatever it won't be, there's higher GDP, lower happiness. That is what happened now. In every country with a higher GDP, the research has shown very well, very clearly that they are not happy at all. But where GDP might be okay, but people are getting more happier. Especially in Europe now, in Northern Europe, I guess, like Norway, Finland, they are always, when they are coming to this happiness index, they are always in the top. Because the thing is that they are, of course, they are following the GDP, but not totally. They are looking at the well-being of people, the happiness of people, and when you take that well-being and happiness under considerations, the whole idea of the balancing the surroundings is become a very important point of view. So that's why the environment is become very essential issues. The way how we consume our product in our life become very important, because capitalistic world always teach us what? Profit before people. All this business, profit before people. But sufficiency approach or something related that approach, even with the gross national happiness approach, is that trying to turn that down. People before profit. Profit is still, we need it. We need to have a capital, otherwise capital, things don't work. But not, putting the capital at first, but as tools. But the whole idea is to reach well-being and happiness. So this is the now 21st century. Now the world is shifting. Even with the idea of the Sustainable Development Goal, which global agenda which the United Nations put towards us, to the whole nations all around the world in 2015. And then I was one of the scholars, I guess that I'm not as a Buddhist monk because I was there. It's not under the religious title, but I was invited by the United Nations at New York in the 2016, the early, I think it was in March, I think. And then the chairman or the president of the SDG committee was with us. At the time happened to be the Korean ambassador to UN. And then we are working on that idea is that we have announced the SDG, but we are in a, still in a dilemma how we are going to operate it, because it's just only the goal. We don't know how to do it. So every country, they don't know how to do it. Every nation is lost. It was given. Yeah, you have to fulfill that. Then how? For example, the idea of the elimination of poverty by all means, the first SDG. So I was one of them, one of the scholars was invited to talk about these as a think tank of the SDGs. And I still remember very vividly at the time, I was the minority at the time in that group and then fighting against the totally different ideas. And I was the one who is kind of really opposing the idea of an SDG from the beginning. From the beginning, I said that it doesn't work. It won't work because all the 17 indicator, everything 17 means, the goals is ultimate result, the consequences they are looking at is economic growth. Although there is an idea of a society, the climate, the water, the city, the education, but all those things is shadow on the economy, shadow on the GDP. So we asked the president of the SDG at the time, so what you want us to do? And the president, openly says that, yeah, we have already announced this, but we don't know how to. So can you think together and then came up with some kind of idea, how do we apply in order to achieve the goals of SDG by 2030? And there was a lot of debate. There was a lot going on because this, and said that we asked that, then is a 17 goals. So which one you want? And the president says that, okay, let's go with the first one as a starter. And then if it works, then we'll work on the second and third and so on and so on. And for the first one is, of course, is end of poverty by all means. So within about 20 of us, we talked together, and a lot of scholars says that, economists says that poverty is a problem of taxation. The whole tax system created poverty. Somebody says that the labor created poverty. Somebody says that it's economic created poverty. And they went on with all this expertise on different things, the policymaker, the economics, the financial expertise, and everyone is talking on their own language. And I was one of the minority. They're sitting there, don't know what to do with that. I just become a good listener. I just listen to them. A lot of things I think I understand, but it doesn't make sense for me because I guess I was brought up in a totally different situations and the condition, I guess, because I left home as a homeless when I was just 14. Because I became a monk, I was a novice monk at the age of 14. So all my life, I have been living by the vow of poverty. So I don't have a home, I don't have any belongings. Everything what I own is that it's a communal base. I just have a right to use it and right to take care and for someone to use it later on. So all my monastery base, whatever, these people build it. So I just have they just give me the opportunity to go and use it. Just like when you become a manager, when you become a so-and-so of the company, you go and work it. And after that, it's not yours. So same as me, I don't have anything. What I got is that my personal, which considered as my personal value or personal property is that for eight things, what I call 8 things. These are the robes, my arms round, and all necessities of what I needed. That's all I belong. I consider myself as mine. But other thing, I don't have anything what I call mine. So I simply asked the question, what do you mean by poverty? I live by the taking vow of poverty, but you are saying that you have to eliminate the poverty by all means. So I asked that, it looks like I'm becoming your problem. Because your agenda is that you have to eliminate poverty, and I am the big symbol there, symbol of poverty, taking the vow of poverty. So I don't know, you have poverty line, I don't know where I will fit in. There is no single line I can fit in. I don't have anything. So I asked the president, I asked all the scholars there, so where I'm going to fit? I thought that I'm in the wrong crowd. I thought that I shouldn't come here with the invitation at all. I think I made a wrong decision here. Because I shouldn't be here at all, because I'm the problem. So I challenged that. Your Excellency, if you really want to meet that first SDG, unfortunately, you have to kill me. Because that's the only way. But not me, because I'm representing again all other religious people. All the Christian priests, they take a vow of poverty. All the Hindu priests, they take a vow of poverty. Sannyasi, they take a vow of poverty. And the Buddhist monk, they take a vow of poverty. So there is a big group of people. We live under the vow of poverty with more happier. And we are the one, little bit of a sector, little bit of a responsibility. We are creating the whole atmosphere in this world, trying to solve the problem, which you are creating the problem. That's all the rich people, they are what we are creating the problem. And it's become our burden, it's become our job now, trying to solve that problem. So my poverty, and how on earth my poverty become the problem of the SDG problem of the world? So what should I do? So I shouldn't be here at all. So what do you mean poverty? And at that time, actually, I just, I was just simple like that. I just my monk bag. And then I just went there for one night, actually. I flew all the way from Bangkok just for 1 day conference, which they asked me. So I didn't take any luggage at the time. I just went like, it's a 1 day trip anyway. So I just poured all my bag down there. And I said that, you see, I don't have a single credit card. I don't have a single penny, single dollar. You invited me, you sent me the ticket, everything, the limousine you sent me. And this morning, the hotel provided me the breakfast. For my lunch, I don't know where I'm going to eat. I just hope that somebody will give me lunch after this conference, whatever. But I didn't have anything. But look at my face. Am I suffering? Is that unhappy? Look at all of you. You know that you are all the richest people. You are the somebody. Because I'm nobody here. But look at the attitude we have, the difference between my attitude and towards all of your attitude. I don't have any problem with it. And I don't feel any unhappy at all. But you are always making this. And then one of the thing, I can't remember his name. Actually, he's a Swiss. I think he's a Swiss policy maker, very rich, wealthy policy maker. I think he was the one who paid for my plane ticket as well, actually. And he just banged on his table. And he said that, I can't believe that in this 21st century, men like you still survive. I said, sorry, I'm still living and kicking you at your butt. What can I do? But this is the reality. So that's why the poverty, go to the, one by one, the hunger, zero hunger, the kind of education, all the SDG, when you look at it in detail, then it is something like a very ideal ideology. It's become a very something we have, we can't achieve at all. So that's why I have been working with that SDG and trying to debate totally from different point of view, as a human point of view, and then in a way that make it more practical. And that's how the GNH and the sufficiency approach, for example, become very relevant in that sense. So His Majesty King, when he started this idea, was before the announcement of SDG event itself. SDG was only 2015, but the King of Thailand gave this idea even earlier, many years earlier than SDG, come to the shape. It was very clearly mentioned in one of the opening speech of Irina Bokova, the former director of the UNESCO in Paris. And in one of the conference, she spoke that while SDG is just thought and given this to the world by United Nations, there was a man called King Bhumibol of Thailand who has given us the blueprint of SDG, who has given the key to open the SDG itself. So this is one of the statements in Nabokov at the time mentioned about the sufficiency approach. So the whole sufficiency, therefore, is another synonyms. The king used it is the equilibrium, the balance. Because sufficiency is let's say that if I have a glass of water here, an empty glass, and then if somebody pour the water, and then if the water is full of the glass, what will you say? Stop, enough. Because it will spill off from the glass. Stop. That is the nature. We know when enough is enough. But imagine, instead of water, if you pour the money, will you say stop? More. It's still more. So this is how our mind is corrupted by this. That's why naturally, we are not that kind of stock at all. But because of the system, because of the GDP, because of the capitalism, we corrupted, and way now we lost ourselves. The whole idea of sufficiency, therefore, His Majesty King is trying to bring down to a the human sense. If a human sense, what happens is that we know when enough is enough. We know that if we are taking the fruits, for example, we are talking about the hunter-gatherer or whatever it is, we will never exploit. Just a lot of scholars say that there are thousands of species of animals in this wild, but they never destroy the nature. But when a human single human entered the nature, did habitat, and we destroy everything. They are evil. It's not those natural beings. So we become one of the natural creature. Then it's something that we have to adjust, and we have to be sufficient with that. The sufficient in actually the word is called santuchi. In Hindi, we call santosh. So it is a contentment, actually, the word sufficiency is the word, original word is contentment. And contentment is sometimes very subjective. You can make it objective. It depends on what, who you are. For example, if you have if you have a 10 franc, unfortunately, I don't use the money, so I don't know. Sorry for that. Somebody will use for me, so I don't have to worry about that. So if you have a 10 franc, and you want to have a I don't know whether you can buy or not with 10 franc. Yes. Yeah? Okay, so fine. But if you have a money about just 1 franc in your pocket, but you still want to have a Starbucks coffee, so it means that you are a contender, you are creating your economic crisis within yourself through your greed crisis, through your, you don't know when. But if you have enough money, you can go and buy, it doesn't matter. But in the days, you don't have that money, so you have to continue with what you got. Otherwise, we are kind of really spreading all this virus, evil virus to everyone. Because then we are starting to say that why I don't have a right to have that. Why I'm not getting that salary? Why I'm not getting so they are giving all your problem to someone else, to the system, to the nation, to the here and there. And then when you are saying that the nation is culprit, everyone is become your enemy. The whole idea, the king took it from Buddhism, is that everything started from yourself. The problem is not that problem, because whenever the problem is your existence there within a problem, that's why it's become your problem. But if you are not there, the problem is not your problem. So at the moment, there's a lot of bombing going on in the Middle East. We are saying they're so sorry, we are saying they're also pity. But that's all we can do. It's not that our problem. Even the United Nations become now, I don't know, nothing can be done. We are just saying our voices, but we can't do anything with Israel. We can't do anything with Iran. We can't do anything with all these the parties who is in conflict. We say by the United Nations, we are saying that we will use the economic kind of sanctions and this and that, but they are the one who are fighting, and that's their problem. But if we are not there in their shoes, we just fight that. It's not. A lot of people didn't know what's going on at the moment because we are happy in our comfort zone. So the whole idea of sufficiency, therefore, is the thing is that you have to make sense who you are. You have to identify who you are, where you are, what you got, what you have, what is your kind of surroundings, your environment. So once you're able to really pinpoint that, only then you will be able to really act accordingly. And the action is sometimes is wrong, or it take a different turn, because some of the ideas is sometimes the way we interpret it, the way we transfer those ideas has even there is a bad residue with its ideas. For example, the word idea of the happiness, which every single being is always looking for the happiness, but why we never find it? In the Western context, we always say pursuit for happiness. Why we have to pursue it? Happiness itself is, from the etymological point of view, it is a word from it is a Latin word hap, H-A-P, hap, and it simply means luck and fortune. You see. So the happiness means that it's a luck and fortune. We have to pursue. We have to go and find it. And suddenly, if there's a new brand of the phone, if it is a new fashion, it is a new bag, so we are always pursuing and then finding, looking at having those materializing those things become your kind of ownership. That is a way of happiness. But in fact, that is a way of exploiting your greed. Exploiting, destroying the environment, resources, using overconsumption the resources. So that's why the whole idea of sufficiency is that how to consume mindfully. Mindful consumption is a key part of that very idea of sufficiency His Majesty King gave it. So within that sort of a framework, the sufficiency approach, basically the King is defining is that first you need to think, you need to have this ability of what he calls moderation. That is, again, the root of the contentment, moderation. You should know when, you should know how much is enough. Because human greed is always never end. As I think is the Dalai Lama, as the Mahatma Gandhi once says that there is an abundance of resources in this world for human need, but not for the human greed. Although the population, the science, whatever says that we have overpopulated, our resource is not enough, but that is only the economic and population theory, I guess. Because with the growth of populations, we are also growing technology, we are also growing the innovations, we are also growing a lot of other things. So whatever is growing, actually there is another way of solving our problem. That is all about human being. We are not animal. If an animal, they have to rely on the nature. But we can fix the nature, and then sometimes we fix nature too much until nature gets very angry. And then nature sometimes get revenge out of what nature can't stand anymore. But this is a human being. So in that sense, if we look at those moderations, idea of moderation he gave it, is that you should know when to say enough. Enough in the sense that looking at the idea of a society have to be equitable, the sustainable, the economic has to be, there should be economic growth, yes, of course, there should be economic growth, but not exploitation. And then also the environment reservations, which is going even the climate change and so on and so. So these three ideas, the three kind of element is one of the key role in the sufficiency approach of His Majesty King. And then he added more. All those three ideas has to be based on the knowledge and ethical value, which is very, very important. Because these days, when you use the knowledge, it's become very egocentric knowledge. That's why we sometimes lose what you call is the ethical or moral value within us. I sometimes pity Adam Smith in some sense, because Adam Smith's work on the wealth of nations has a great impact upon us. He's the father of the capitalism. But when I go through his idea and his life story, I was so sorry that actually that is not his personality at all. Adam Smith was a professor of ethics. He was teaching ethics. He wrote a lot about ethics. And even the wealth of nations, he has his own comment after he wrote it that it will only work with ethical background. But unfortunately, we forget all other words. We just use in the wealth of nations, and we create this whole kind of a sinful world of this capitalism. And then that's what we are facing the problem. So the sufficiency is one of the way. The main matter is moderations. So moderate, how do we moderate? So moderation is one of the way we deal with our life, with how do we use, how do you consume, how do you. Then we have to think of the king gave us about resiliency. The resiliency or immune. In a way that when something went wrong, but you need to again stand up again, just like a tree, just like a grass. We need to have that, develop this kind of a very inner quality to be resilient with the problems, with the things, and then come back again. And the third point he gave is that it is about the reasonableness or the wisdom. So we have to have that knowledge and go through the problem with that. So he came up with this idea of a sufficiency approach with these three main kind of elements with the grounding based on the knowledge and ethic. So once you do that, then it will kind of turn to help us to achieve the whole idea of a sustainable development goal, SDGs, what the world is talking about, but in a better way, in a more kind of human-based, more kind of well-being based, rather not only on the economic base, not on the GDP base. So this was the idea of the king that he gave it. And then, as I said, 5,172 projects he implied, he worked it out all over the Thailand, was based on those ideas. So he did a lot of irrigation, he did a lot of dam, and even where the water is scarce, so he's trying to fill that. Even in the hill tribe in Thailand at the time they are doing all the the narcotic opium. They are doing the opium agriculture, and then because then government saying that it asked them to stop, but they said no, because the turnover, the money back is so high, and the government can't do anything. So even they're using the very strong law, they're sneaking. They have all the way to get around because the turnover of the economic turnover is very high with the opium. So the king went and studied there, asked all the data from the hill tribes, and then look at all the weather and everything. And then the king suggested to do the different crop. That is the fruits. It's a cold weather fruit crops. And suddenly, because in Thailand, those kind of fruits has to be imported from this foreign land, and king gave that idea, and then king tried himself in some of his plot, and then until make sure that the hill tribe will really get enough money, not as much as opium, but it is more than what they expected. Suddenly, king teach them all this hill tribe to do that, and they are willing to do that without any legal enforcement, whatever, because turnover is better. They don't have to risk for the prison. They don't have to risk for the policeman, and their family is happy because just change the crop. So the king gave the technology, innovations, and the new seed and the new planting. Immediately the things change, which government can't do that. Government is always using good at enforcing the law, but doesn't know how to solve the problem. So the King sufficiency approach basically understand the problem from the ground, and he innovate with all these new ideas, which is available everywhere, and then put it in the perspective so it can solve the problem without damaging the nature, without damaging the well-being and poverty, what is the human always suffer. So in a way that it is a kind of just a balanced theory. The whole idea of sufficiency is, another word is a balanced development theory. And that is what King has been always saying, this is the middle path. So this is a part of what King did it throughout his reign of over 60 years of his reign. And he put in all his effort, all his knowledge for his subject, for Thailand. Suddenly, that's become a very model for many other development countries as well. And fortunately, the United Nations and all this development intellectual learned about that, saw about that. Finally, it was when the United Nations, under the leadership of the Kofi Annan, then awarded Lifetime Achievement Award as a development king for His Majesty King Bhumibol, who came up with this idea of sufficiency approach. So therefore, the sufficiency is one of alternative development which we can rely on, which will give I think, better consequence and better result in terms of society, humanity, economic, and especially environment preservations. Our lifestyles still the same, but we have a more smile to put on. But at the moment, we are working hard, and our smile is not in our face because we are always stressed. Today, we have this for the South Asians stock of our population. Today is Diwali. Today is our kind of a national holiday. You have a festival, and then if you really go and look at it, it's a festival should be a very happy moment. But of course, we have to pretend to be happy. But at the same time, we have to look at our pocket. Each festival celebration, how much is going on, how we have to cough up. So in a way that even celebration is become instead of a source of happiness, it's become a source of sadness, source of stress. And this is what happened. So that's why the idea of sufficiency approach is based on the way the king thought it. It's based on the balanced development, the balance with every part of that, every part of the theory, particularly in the economic, society, and environment. But after all this idea which King came out, to be honest with you, is something very, very common understanding based on Buddhism. So that's why his theory is just out of blue, not out of place. His theory is not that someone who just came and give this theory, it will work for a certain time or certain conditions. What happens is that he relied this theory based on Buddhism. Because the word middle path is the heart of Buddhism itself. If you are talking about Buddhism, for many people, Buddhism is a religion. For me, I guess that it's a kind of religion, but I never regard myself Buddhism as a religion for me. Because the word religion itself is, I hate it, to be honest with you, because it's a religare. It is kind of it's based on a faith base, based on a belief. But based on my education in Buddhism is that the Buddha says that you don't believe. Buddha says that even don't believe me. Buddha never asked to believe him. Buddha says that my job is just to show you the way, you have to walk your own. He's just kind of a navigator. But when you have to walk your own, and then you have to experience by yourself. It's an experimental religion in a sense. So it is about the Buddha. Now Buddha is unfortunately I don't know, whoever put this word ism after the word Buddha. But based on my research, it was first appeared the word Buddha become Buddhism in 1828 in the American English Dictionary. First, I thought that is a British, which was in 1935. I found that the latest word in the using in the Great Britain, in the Encyclopedia Britannica. First appeared the word Buddhism in the version in 1835. I thought that was the first time, but when I was teaching in America, one of my students sent me the assignment, and he came up with the word. He found me, and then he bring the dictionary. In fact, that dictionary, first dictionary, it's published in 1828 in the American English Dictionary. The word Buddhism entry first there, and then it suddenly become ism. Before that, we just Buddhist teaching, Buddha's doctrine. That is something that they have an ism there. But anyway, so Buddhism at the moment, in the kind of a quoted word, is something at the moment we have been accepted, I think worldwide, that it is not kind of that religion, faith-based religion in that sense. Buddhism even can, but it cannot be kind of religion in that sense, because nowadays we have so many people, I don't know what you call it. For example, in America, there's a big group of people in America now, they call it Jubu, Jewish Buddhists. So how can they be? I don't know. From the Western point of view, you have to be pigeonhole. You have to be white or black. But these days, there's a lot of gray as well now. And there is another category because I was teaching in America, so I have to. I'm encountering these people, and another group is called Chrisbu. They are Christian, but they are Buddhists. And then I have some friend who is a Jesuit priest actually, but their qualification is they are PhD in Buddhist study. And in the university, they teach Buddhism with the Christian collar. So this is the whole Buddhist idea. So the king took that Buddhist idea and secularized it, and then put it in the, what they call it, sufficiency approach. In order to prove that, actually, there is a Buddhist word. They call Santuti Paramanthanam. So it's a Santosa is a Paramadhanam. So Santuti Paramanthanam means that the greatest wealth, Paramang is the greatest wealth is contentment. So now Buddha was talking about the contentment as a greatest wealth, not a wealth as the present word, wealth in English. I don't know. We have a native speaker in English, I don't know. And then we have a lot of expert in English. Have you aware that the word wealth itself is not the way we understand the wealth these days? The wealth itself was from the actually wealth is from the kind of a happy and well. It's a commonwealth. Actually, the original word is a well-being. It's a common well-being. So the whole idea the philosophy behind the word wealth itself is not money. It's not a poverty, but it is a well-being of humanity, the happiness and peace of humanity. That was the original meaning of the wealth in English even. And that is the word, even the Buddha used it 2,500 years ago, says that the contentment itself is a wealth. So what His Majesty King of Thailand, King Bhumibol did it, is that he turned that one from ideology to action. So when he said that sufficiency economy, he was meaning that the contentment is the greatest action. Because the word economy, the king used it has very profound meaning there. Economy, as Adam Smith used it, is a management of, as I said, management of production, distribution, and consumption. But if you go back to the 15th century, 13th century, something about 13th century, the economy is a word from the oikonomos, from the Greek, which means that the management of state or management of the house. So it has nothing to do with money. Money is a part of it, but not the money. But nowadays, when you're talking about the economy, it's become a wealth or it's become a money. So it is a management of your life, management of your family, management of state. So that is what economy all about. And His Majesty King used the word sufficiency economy in that sense. The way, the contentment, the way of balancing things is the noble actions. It's a noble management of life. So it is a little bit of spirituality there, but a spirituality that can be practiced in our life based on what conditions. If you are talking about our life as a family life, should be sufficiency approach with that. Otherwise, the family wouldn't be in a peace and happy. In the educations, of course, you need to have a sufficiency element there. Even in the love matter. If you are, having a dating with some of your lovers, even you need to have a sufficiency there. If you are overacted, then you have to be, cautious about the over sadness as well. Over expectation lead to the over sadness, over hopeless. So these are the whole idea of a sufficiency approach of the king in order to develop, in order to keep a balance of the, of course, these days we are coming to development, but at the same time, that is to manage our life from individual level to the family, to the national, to the global development. So that is the key message of the sufficiency. Having said that, how it related to the Sustainable Development Goal? Because as Irina Bokova, the director of UNESCO, once says that this is the blueprint, this is the kind of a key to open the SDG. Again, SDG has its own problem, as I said from earlier. But even in terminologically, it has a problem. I don't know how many of us think that the sustainable development is a very sound word. I don't find it is a very sound at all. Because the way we always understood that sustainable means that it is a long, forever, is a long run, whatever it is. But development, what is development? Development is changing, isn't it? If it doesn't change, you won't call development. So the agent, which is a changing agent, is called development. But if you say the sustain means that as it is, it's forever. So what does it really mean? Sustainable development. So this is a big problem there. It's a paradox there. And in Thailand, for example, they translate the word sustainable development as a kind of development which go forever. So it is a, paradox. It's a contradicting each other. Development means that you are changing, but forever means that it doesn't change. So what do you want? You want to change or not change? Sustainable development. Same as every country. Even in the, I think in the Hindi, we have a similar problem. In the Sri Lanka language also, there's also chirat, something like that. It's a forever. Everything is forever. Everything is a kind of a, very long lasting. But what is there in this earth with long last? Everything keeps changing, isn't it? Everything is, from Buddhist point of view, is transient. Everything is changing. Everything is impermanent. So how you can make things permanent? There's no such thing as permanent. If I go to the Buddha says that there's only one certain things which is permanent, that is a death, which will never change. Everyone will die for sure. Everything will die. That is the only permanent thing, but all other things is impermanent. Our idea is impermanent, our age is impermanent, our face is impermanent, everything is impermanent. But the problem is that we are not accepting the nature of impermanence which is going through us. And that is a whole cause of the disease called stress and anxiety. So that's why we need a sufficiency approach. Not only for the development of the world, development of our nations, but just simple as development of our life. So the SDG itself, Sustainable Development Goals, is sometimes wrongly taken in that sense. I think now, and in India, they have changed the word. I think there's something now, generally they were using some other word, but now they are using the Dharaniya Vikas something. Dharmika, Dharmika, Dharaniya. And now we are coming to the word after the Dharma is there. And that is very, very, I think, a sensible way of putting that. Because the word sustainable development, if you look at the etymology of English word sustain, is very interesting there, is the word from the SUS is a prefix, is from the below. And the Latin word is, I don't know how they read it, it is a T-E-N-E-R-E, tenere, or tenere, I don't know how to read it. I don't know. It's not my problem, whatever, how you want to read it, find it. But it is a T-E-N-E-R-E, tenere or tenere. And then that means that uphold. And what is a commonality is that the Latin root and the Pali and Sanskrit root happen to be, they have a common ancestor. And in the Oriental world, the word tenere is called, the root verb is dra. And dra, which means that uphold again. And dra is the word called dharma. The word dharma, which is now sometimes we call natural law, or sometimes it's called religion, sometimes call it teaching, sometimes call it law. So the dharma is, it can be anything under the sky, I guess. But the whole idea of the dharma is that upholding. To put it a more easy or kind of a very childish way, I would say that the whole idea of upholding is that it's a function. This table at the moment is a table because it functions as a table. But if this table broke down and it's become a piece of iron, piece of wood board, whatever it is, the table is gone there. This table become adharma. Table is unsustainable. This table is sustainable at the moment because it functions as it should be. So the whole idea of a dharma or sustainable there is that everything in this world has its own functions. Whether it's a natural functions or whether it's a human created functions. It could be both. But we create the things for certain functions to work for us. The nature is also functions in the way it has to run the nature itself. So that is a kind of a natural law, what we call it, and that is a dharma. So sustain actually means the dharma. So if you understand the word sustainable development from etymological point of view, I would say that that is a dharmic development. Or the development with the upholding functions, with the balance functions, with the equilibrium functions, which was the same ideology that His Majesty King used the word sufficiency. For this idea, actually, it was not only the idea, what United Nations took agenda forward, but there's less people refer to this idea actually. There is one, the Nobel Peace Prize, Nobel laureate, who was awarded for his theory on economic theory, Simon Hubert, around in 1970s. And then he was economist. He presented a theory, very new theory in that sense at the time. That's how he got his Nobel laureate. And he said that it is a nature of a human to satisfy people, satisfy one's satisfactions. So all the economic, all the politics, all the society is driven by this power of satisfying. So everyone needs to satisfy their satisfactions. But he said that there is a problem with that. Unfortunately, human satisfaction doesn't have any limit. And we can't control it. When you got that, you want more of that, more of this, more of that. Always you want more and more and more. So when it is enough, we don't know. So therefore, with the if we are just following the satisfaction point of view, we are exploiting resources. We are exploiting the what the nature is giving us more than what nature can give us. So that's the creation of the problem, world problem, the economic problem. So that's why he said that in order to live with this world, still with the kind of what we need in satisfaction, but satisfaction has to be tuned in with the word sufficiency. And then he put these two words together, satisfactions and sufficiency. And he put it together and he came up with a new word, it's called satisficing. And that for that theory, he won the Nobel laureate with that. So basic idea is sufficiency again. So again, just to see that actually the whole, all about this SDG or sufficiency or satisficing or whatever it is basically, it is a big kind of a hit. It's a big bang for us in order to think after the nature, the way of life we are really leading at the moment through the influence of capitalism, through the influence of even nowadays we have disruptions with the AI, and then this AI going to be another religion, I guess now, because now we can't live without AI. It's become another source of our life, and then we have become a slave of those things because we don't know how to balance those things. If we know how to balance it, all those innovation, the creativity, all those technology, it is there to serve us, not to increase our human desire, human eagerness, but they should be there in order to increase our well-being and happiness among all people. And well-being and happiness is based on, don't forget that we are the social being. We are not only the economic beings. So we are social beings. We have to have this living together as a brother and sister, living together as a one family, living together as a human society. Because after all, we are somebody because there is other body with us, interact with us. We become human because there is another human with us. If there is no other human to interact, do you think that you can be a human? There's a lot of anthropological, there's a research. If somebody, some boy or some kids raised by the fox, then he's a foxman, not a human. So human is a copycat machine, and that's why we need to have a good example so that we can copy. It's a better form of human. So in a way that we can respect our humanity, at the same time, we will preserve our nature, the world, the only planet we got it. So in a way that this is the way how we lead our world to the whole kind of development. So this is His Majesty King's idea about sufficiency approach of development. Thank you.
Venerable, thank you very much. That was a deep dive into the concepts of sufficiency. Thank you very, very much. I would like to take a moment now to just remind everyone that we have an opportunity for Q&A. Because of the issue of I think we need to be careful of how we pose it so loudly and clearly, so it won't need to be repeating. And I'd like to ask the first question.
Please.
Normally I don't. Regarding the figure that you had asked earlier, was it Simon Kuznets?
Simon Kuznets is the one who came the idea of the GDP. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's. Thank you for reminding that.
Okay, good. I just wanted to clarify that for our audience here. And so I'll be happy to direct attention to our audience. First question here. Anybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, namaste. So I'm a professor emeritus of economics from the University of Geneva, but in fact, economics, the new economic thinking of looking at well-being rather than economic development as an indicator of welfare and an indicator of progress. I completely agree with your kind of sufficiency approach to development, and in fact, as you said, very rightly said, that is the basis of the Gross National Happiness Index, and in fact, they have sufficiently levels. And I feel that the happiness itself, GNH itself, is a kind of a misleading because it has many, many dimensions.
Indeed.
Not just the happiness, but also conditions of living, health, education, spirituality, everything is there. So it's a very multi-dimensional concept, although the name doesn't say it.
Mhm.
But nowadays you have other things like, the Human Development Concept, the Better Life Index, OECD's Better Life, Human Progress, Social Progress. So lots of these multi-dimensional indicators and concepts have come up. Of course, probably the blueprint was in the sufficiency, the happiness thing. But one key issue, I think, where there's a real challenge in the practical implementation, as you also rightly said, where is the sufficiency level? And you said it's very subjective, and it looks like it is a subjective thing, unless, of course, somebody can impose from the top. This is your level, you have to have content with it. Otherwise, if the individual herself or himself have to decide, and then I'm sure you would have also known about studies that have done, as to ask people, surveys, what do you think is a good level of well-being for you? And you say, and we feel that, as you also, I think, inferred, that people who have more things always put the sufficiency at a higher level than people who have less things. They say, I am happy, content with this. And the more you have, you say, I need this. If you have no car, they'll say it's okay. But if people have one car, they'll say, I need 2 cars to be sufficient. So the idea is, how do you define what is sufficient for the individual? So that seems to be, so as I said, unless it's imposed from out, that seems to be a very important challenge in it.
Yes, that's right. That is one of that's why we are not success in terms of coming out like a GDP, I guess, because its GDP has a certain kind of measurement and a metrics of numbering.
Yeah.
And in terms of this happiness, in terms of this peace, and we can't really number it. That's why His Majesty King wisely put it in the idea of what he called is knowledge and ethical. So that's the whole that have to be cognized, and that is, I think, based on we have to bring that issue within the human educations. But at the moment, because all our education, as you're a professor, you know that we are kind of the education is providing us, we are just producing a level force for the market, economic market. And that's why I guess that the king, wisely put it the idea of the knowledge, and that the knowledge is even not enough. But knowledge has to be kind of really balanced with the kind of moral, ethical values. And then that is, I think, the best way to put it. But if you are trying to have that overall kind of a criteria and then the numbers, again, I think that's one of the words I think once I spoke in the United Nations in ECOSOC, one of the big conference. I said that although we are talking about the GNH, but inside of GNH, it is a GDP.
There is GDP.
Yeah, so that's why. So it is very difficult. So I don't know. I don't have that answer at the moment. But based on what my study, it has to be based on, again, my own kind of way of life with Buddhism, because I won't go and judge for someone who's enough, what is enough for you, what is enough for me. But if everyone have that human quality of the cognition of the human quality, and they will know that, because the whole idea for us is that to become who you are. I always say that when you say the I only appear when there is a he and she. Because if I'm alone in this room, if I say that I, so I'm insane. So I have to end up in a mental institution. But suddenly I become relevant because there is a person here, there is Her Excellency is here, then I is suddenly appear. But everyone is gone, so I wouldn't be here as well. I'm just a symbol self of the flesh or whatever it is. So this whole idea of anatta, what the Buddha taught, anatta or anatman. So this is the whole idea. Buddha trying to look at this whole idea of the cognition. So if you have that cognitivity, the prajna there, so in a way that you will have a compassion by itself, because the compassions, I always look at a very different way. For example, from the Western point of view, if you need for success, you need to have a passion. And of course, it is true. Without passion, we can't be success anything. But the Buddha came up with a different theory. I guess that, of course, yeah, you need to have a passion. but don't forget that you are living with others. So you have to make that common passion, not only your passion. So if your passion is become egocentric, so if you become a common passion, it's become a compassion that is ecocentric. So the whole idea is you become just a part of it. So that is the actual etymology of the word, actually, word Bhagavato in Pali, or Bhagavan even in the Hindi. Actually, Bhagavan, we thought that's a God. But etymologically, there's a word from the Bhaga or Bhaga. The Bhaga is what? We are the part and parcel for each other. So once we know that part and parcel with each other, the whole idea of how much I should get, how much you should get, will be kind of in a way that it's equated by itself, based on the labor, based on the knowledge, based on everything. Of course, it is another kind of one formula that you can use it, but at least it will manage the society, it will manage the world in a way. But there is always somebody, there's always something will happen, and that is our challenge to cope with all the time. Otherwise, we want to call this world. Otherwise, we'll be in heaven already.
So practically, it goes through I would say, the knowledge education.
Yes.
You have to put that in the curriculum
indeed.
of children from the
That's right. Because at the moment, education is very contradictory. Very contradictory. Not westernized only. Very, very contradictory. Because, for example, I sometimes regard this as a small child. In our family, especially in the Asian, or even in European family, when we teach our kids, brought our kid, we said that we have to share. Whatever, if the toys, the sweets, whatever it is, we have said that in our home, we respect the elders, the sharing, all this cooperation, everything. But once you send those kids to school, what they teach? You have to compete each other, you have to be better, you have to be in it. So, no cooperation in the house is cooperation, school is competition. Again, sometimes the school has this national policy, for example, national policy about this recycling, for example. They say that, okay, then we have to do this, all this waste management, this and that. But all the kids, when you go to the home, for example, your parents leave and take your kids to the park or whatever, and remind that, teachers taught us to do this, all this waste management, see the garbage there and run and pick the garbage and try to put it, what the parents will say. Why? That is your job, it's dirty, why you want to pick it up? So, as a kid, we are confused. So that is our education. No, that's education at the moment. That's why we are talking about how do we change our education to be a holistic education, not only kind of a science-based, kind of knowledge-based education at the moment. This is, I think, sometimes beyond our imagination to go through. But that is what happened. And as a part of me as a professor, part of me as a Buddhist monk, and that is what I'm always trying to relay, even in the policymakers' kind of teachings, even to the ground level. Sometimes, I'm a PhD, I'm talking with all this leader, but many times I was invited to talk with the kindergarten. And then I have to very, very think hard. I thought that it's very easy to talk like in this group, but when I really go down to the kindergarten, it's really headache how to communicate with them, because everything is, the message is confused there. And that is something that every one of us have to help each other.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Yes. I'm sorry.
Can I
Yes.
have another one or?
Yeah.
Yes.
What?
No, I will.
I saw a hand raised.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, just, another very, very small relation to your poverty, the definition of poverty, because that's also one of my domains. So you said, of course, when you said that in the gathering that you were in,
Yes.
you were the problem because you had a woe of poverty.
Yeah.
Then that kept me thinking, yes, of course, that's true that for you have, by choice, out of choice, you have taken the woe of poverty. But then there are people who are in a situation of deprivation that may not be out of choice.
Indeed.
So then there is a need to cater to
Yes,
them. Yeah.
but again, and there is a no standard of, because now Western is trying to put a standard on that.
Right.
So let's say that poverty line.
Yeah.
So you're earning how many dollar or how many franc per hour, and if less than that, that is a poverty line. But that could be work in some places, but you can't have that world standard, because back in India, back in Thailand, we can't use that. For example, child labor, we have all the problem with the Western way of thinking and the Eastern way of thinking. Because in the Western, you have a system has developed so well. So as a child, it is a time for them to study, not doing other things. But in our society, in the Asian society, that is a way of socialization. That is a way of bringing up our child to teach them the responsibility, teach them to know that how to it, to be a grown up with responsibility. So in a way that we use our kids to work for us, but from the Western point of view, it is a child labor. So we have all different kind of things. So in that sense, I guess that it is a lot of communication need to be done. And then when we said the poverty, that's why I said the poverty in thinking. I carried on one of they came with the capital poverty, they come with resource poverty. When after that they come with all these hundreds of poverty alone. But I said that yes, that's true. But after all, I said that it is a kind of cognition poverty. It is about understanding poverty, but we need it. We need to have and more kind of a mutual understanding and talk each other as a human. And that is what we are lacking, and that I call poverty. Because it doesn't matter somebody who is back in the mountain, they don't use any money at all. So how do you call them? They are poor, they are rich. And for them, they are more than happy. For example, there is one good anecdote I will all tell. There is one rich man actually who is trying to expand his property, and he is trying to buy all on the lands, the poor people's land in his surrounding. And then there's one poor man, a very poor man. He won't sell his land, which happened to be just in front of his property. And he has a grand, big house, big kind of palace-like house. So this wealthy man, wake up and look at this, this tiny, shabby house there, and he always says, no, how can buy it? How can buy it? He's always in trouble. But on the other hand, this poor man living there, nothing in the shabby, doesn't have anything. And wake up and see that this grand mansion. He's so happy. Oh, we are so happy. I'm so happy to be living with these grand mansions. And he's trying to, say that, no, I'm happy here. And that, as you just said, he's the wealthiest of the wealthiest, but he is not happy. And it's a small, he can't even tolerate one small poor there. He's not, he's in terms of wealth-wise, he's a very wealthy, but his mind is so poor. But whereas this poor, he doesn't have anything. But his mind is so open, he's able to accept that wealthy man, and then I'm able to accept that the differentiations. And that is something that I call poverty, I guess.
Thank you.
One more question. Thank you very much. It was really very interesting. And if I understood correctly, poverty, sufficiency doesn't mean poverty. So we are not kind of looking at the situation as Professor, you asked the question about what about the people who just don't have money.
Yes.
Of course they should have. I think the question, if I understood correctly, your position is that it's not that people should remain poor.
No,
people should be sufficient.
Yes,
right?
that's
and
right.
the sufficiency can be measured in different ways.
Indeed.
One of the measurements can be poverty line, like the city of Geneva.
Yes.
And I was advocating for that for example, intervoting for the United Nations should, and the only thing that I could find, we were actually brainstorming with our interns coming together and saying, so how we can ask actually United Nations to compensate the interns? And there were two ways that UN was functioning, internal UN one and outside UN one. One was the daily subsistence allowance that UN was giving to its staff. 10% or 20%, there was a big debate, and we were like looking at it. If it was 20%, it was around 2,000 francs. If it was 10%, it was around 1,000. And we said, okay, it should be either 20% of daily subsistence because we are understanding, not because we are looking at GDP or whatever, to live in Geneva with dignity, sufficiently, you need to have something around 2,000. This is the amount. And then we say, okay, then let's look what Geneva statistics are saying. And then we found another term, which is the poverty line in the canton of Geneva, which is now, I think, 2,345, which was actually something like measured. But I'm completely understanding from your lecture, and enlightened me a lot, that we can find any other measurements across the region within the diversity of the West. and it was very interesting. We went to New York City and then other duty stations, and we couldn't find poverty lines there. Not every city, not every government does have actually place that you can go and know, in here the poverty line is there. There are not every place that there is a minimum salary for you. Here there is a minimum salary, but not everywhere has a minimum salary. And I think it's very interesting to actually focus on sufficiency, and even when people are advocating for their rights or whatever, I think sufficiency is the main point.
Yes, that's right. Because if you are talking about this, the fixed poverty line or whatever, it is not possible at all. Because every region, every country, they have a different way of living. They are living, and if everything is counted by the poverty as a wealth, the anti-poverty is a wealth, and there is a lot of research we have done again with this. What you call this? There is a new term called happiness, economy of happiness, and they have done some kind of survey said that okay, if the money make you happy. So let's say that everyone us has I don't know, 10,000 francs as our salary. And then we thought that someone is getting only 5,000, someone gets 2,000, and it's not enough. So if the 10,000 make us happy, so if we make it everyone 10,000, will be happy? No, because the whole idea of human nature is we start to compare. Why with the same salary? Why he is having a better car? Why is having a better food? Why have a better dress? So this is a human nature. So in a way that it will never can solve its temporary measurement, will be that poverty line, whatever it is, a temporary measurement, in order to give the unfortunate to have a chance to give to survive in a more kind of dignity. That is a kind of a government level of way of solving that problem. But that is only temporary measurement. But as you said, but if we develop that sort of a quality from the inside of individual, and we know that where we are, we know that what I should get, we know that how we should manage our life based on our capacity, based on what we got it. And then that is the source of the sufficiency. That is the source of what you call as happiness after all. After all, the word happiness in Eastern idea is totally different from the Western, I say. It is not about pursuing, but sukha is the word in most Asian language. And the word sukha is derived from the two words actually. Su is a prefix, so it's a good or easy, and a ka means that endurance or patience. So it means that the sukha means that be at ease. That is a Eastern way of the defining word happiness. It's not about pursuing, but be with ease. So whatever you are conditions, you are able to accept that. Then you are fine. Even you don't have a single penny, but you can accept that. You can still survive the way, whatever conditions, and you are fine. So there's nobody we don't have anybody to come and say that you are poor, he is rich. Because even financially you are poor, you might be more than happy as who you are. So this is, again, very subjective, and this is, again, a human nature. But we are trying to make it one standard. It is another human nature. So sufficiency, that's why is very relevant there. So we are trying to make things as who we are as a human. Human have a different way of thinking, and we are just trying to put all this different thinking to go together and work together and not exploiting each other. And that is the whole idea of sufficiency.
If I may ask another
Yes, please.
We are talking a lot in the context of SDGs achievements, the question about that we need to change our lifestyles, right? How we are kind of linking the sufficiency approach with the idea of if we want to actually achieve SDGs, we need to change our lifestyles. I can feel they are really very much linked, but I would like to hear your way of actually seeing.
Yes. It looks like, that's one of the critique we always hear about that, because we are so used to the lifestyle we are now, which is controlled by all the capitalism and materialistic. And that is, of course, we thought that this is our comfort zone. But when we really have to go through the hard time in our life, so what we thought comfort zone is become a problem. So that's how then we have to, I don't know, if you are in a certain conditions, it's all about the management of your kind of, what do you call it, greed, desire, hatred, all this. How do you manage that? So it doesn't mean that you have to change totally. It has to be slowly. For example, just imagine that if you go to the mall to buy something, supermarket, and I guess that you need to buy 1 carton of orange juice, for example. But when you go to the mall or supermarket, what happens is that you see something else, it's on sale. And you said, oh, this one is interesting, this one on sale, it looks good. And then you spend your time on there and go and there. And sometimes you go all the way and you come back to your home, you got a full of your bag, and then you went there for the orange juice, but you didn't bring orange juice. And that is happening, you see. So that is a materialistic world. So if you know that you are going there for oranges, be aware. You can fool yourself. Yes, of course, this is cheaper, this is on sale. But you can say that, okay, we'll go fun there, we'll get oranges, we have to come back on the same way anyway, so we can buy on our way back. But in fact, when you're on your way back, you already changed mind. I don't need that. Because in the instant when you saw that, the greed come, but if you know how to manage it, if you're the sufficiency, you just, let's say, delay it a little bit. Once you delay it a little bit, the what do you call it, wisdom, the knowledge, it will work it itself. No, first they will fool you, but if you are smart enough, they can't fool you. So you come with the oranges, and then you will see that, why I'm buying. But generally what happens is that you bought the things, and then when you go to the home, last week I bought it, I haven't used it yet. But I'm begging you again. And that's how the way of sufficiency, we have to be mindful. So that's why I use the word mindful consumptions. The simple way of using it, just when I was teaching in Santa Clara in America, it's a Jesuit university. In one of the events, according to the Jesuit tradition, they are giving kind of a dinner for one of the award event ceremony, and then in generally the Jesuit priest will say the prayer, say the grace, and then in one evening they asked me to say the grace because I don't eat dinner actually, but I'm a professor there, so they asked me to say the prayer, say the grace. I said that no, I don't pray to the God, I don't say the grace, but it doesn't matter, whatever you want to say, just say it, because the Jesuit priest and it's a university, they have this kind of freedom. So when I was there, then I said that, okay. So instead of thanking God for the food and so, I said that, okay, you are here with the food, with your necessity for us to survive. So every bite of your food, when you are taking it, be mindful and watch it and things that how each spoon of food, how it came to you. So think of how the length of the farmers, all those things. Be grateful for everyone, and use it with mindful, not overconsume, not underconsume, and use it just to survive yourself, to bring your more creativity. And so I put it in a very Buddhistic way, and even the Jesuit priests said, "Can you write down to us?" I think it makes sense more than asking say to the thank for the God for bringing the food. I said that we should thank the chef for preparing the food for us. So something like that, to be mindful. So that while the mindfulness has become a very modern mantra for these days.
One last question, Jack?
No, I just wanted to clarify that when I talked about poverty, it wasn't about wealth poverty or money poverty. It was about situations of deprivation, like lack of access to drinking water, good drinking water, things like that, which need not be measured in monetary terms.
Yeah, that's right.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, again, I just want to thank you very much for your insights, your time, generosity. I hope everyone has gotten at least a taste of how just the energy that you give off is definitely remarkable. And I want to share just a brief anecdote. Yesterday afternoon, we were walking around town to a bus stop. And as we got to the bus stop, there was a child approximately 9 years old who was curious enough to approach the Venerable and ask him if he's a monk. And of course, obviously, that's true the case. And he shared how he was interested, having read a book about monks, and he was just so happy and proud to actually have met an actual monk. and shook his hand and all that. And I thought about that later on. I thought there were two aspects. Obviously, the boy's curiosity, but I have to say, I think also something about you radiated something to him that he was curious enough to approach you and all that. And I think it comes across wherever you go and whoever you meet. And I think hopefully today's audience got a little bit of a taste of that today. So thank you very much, Venerable.
Thank you for all the attentions.
One last thing I want to share regarding upcoming events. We do have an event coming up next week on the 9th. I have the pleasure and honor of announcing that one of our board members and the founding Secretary General of ASEAN will be here next Saturday afternoon. So you will all have the honor and pleasure of meeting him in person or via the internet. Tansri Ajit Singh. So if you have the time, please come. If not, he will be coming here to John Knox, and of course he'll be in town. But in terms of our production, our continuing series of lectures, he'll be here to share his insights and all next week. Okay. But you will get the details, and just be aware that we'll give you more information about exact time. But next weekend. With that in mind, thank you all very much for joining us this afternoon, and I hope you all have a great evening. Until next week. Bye now.